بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So today or tonight we're going to conclude Imam Ali's period, which is the period of legislation the legislations that took place during this period from after the death of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam until the death of Imam Ali, which is almost 30 years, 29 years or 30 years. So one of the things, my friends, that I brought with me, and I want you to really try to get, Salaam alaikum, you changed your mind, alhamdulillah. There is a very good book. I mentioned this book last time, An-Nass wal-Ijtihad. Luckily, it has been translated to English. This is the English. This is the Arabic original version. This is the English one. An-Nass wal-Ijtihad. It's written by a great scholar, Sayyid Abdul Hussein Sharafuddin, one of the greatest jurists, mujtahid, and historian. And this book, if you want to get it, it's from Ansarian publication, An-Nass wal-Ijtihad. You can take a picture later on and you can get it. Very good book. This book speaks about the two traditions that we mentioned earlier, that they clashed with each other. They were developed after the death of the Prophet, and they clashed until today. They've been clashing. And that is the first one, Madrasatul Nas, and the second one, Madrasatul Ra'i. The school of tradition, the school of text, and the text meant the Quran, the hadith of the Prophet, the hadith of the Imams. And the other school, the opposite to that school, which is the school of Ra'i, which gave itself permission to change some of the laws. Whereas the Quran says, مَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُ. This is an order by God, a command, that whatever the Prophet brings you and he speaks about it, then you must take it. Whatever he says, don't do it, it's illegal, you shouldn't break the law and do it. So this book, very comprehensive book. It tells you exactly what happened after the time of the Prophet. The reign of the second caliph, first caliph, second caliph, and the third caliph. The whole stories, and then the footnotes, the good thing, the footnotes here are Sunni footnotes. Sunni sources. See here, Sahih al-Bukhari, al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya, المستدرك على الصحيحين المغازي للواقدي تاريخ الطبري تاريخ الإسلام للذهبي. These are all Sunni sources that speaks about how things were changed, how the rules were changed during the period of the three caliphs.
What's the name of the writer?
And Sayyid Abdul Hussein Sharafuddin, very famous, very famous. Sayyid Abdul Hussein Sharafuddin from the city of Sur in southern Lebanon. And this is the translation. Of course, none of you now need the translation. This is for those who are, no, by the way, you need the translation. Yeah, you need the translations. I think it's translated to Farsi, but I don't think you read Farsi. Do you? You read? Okay. Yeah. So it is translated. So let me give some examples of that. This is, my friend, if you can write this, because at home, when you go back to them, you need the references. Look at Surah At-Tawbah, chapter number 9, verse number 60. Let me read it from the Quran. Chapter number 9, Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 60. God says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ. charitable offering, sadaqat is charitable offerings, are only for these categories. These categories are entitled to receive, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, to receive charitable offerings. Now, my friends, we have two types of charitable offerings. One of them, this is going to come in the final, inshallah, this question. One of them are the mandatory, the other is the voluntary. Mandatory alms and voluntary alms. So what is the mandatory alms? Khums and zakat. And this verse here is speaking about the mandatory. Mandatory. Okay? What is the voluntary alms? Voluntary offerings. What do we call it? Sadaqah. Sadaqah is voluntary. You see someone in the streets asking for help, for food, for shelter, a family, a child, an elderly, Muslim, non-Muslim, believer, non-believer, whatever. You give them help. That is voluntary charity, which is sadaqah. However, here the Quran is saying, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ. Though the Quran is using the term sadaqah, but this one is mandatory. Because you can call the mandatory ones sadaqah. Why? Because Quran says to the Prophet, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. Ya Rasulullah, take from their wealth. Meaning this is mandatory. If they don't pay zakat, the Prophet had to send after them and tell them, send me your dues. So it was mandatory during the time of the Prophet. Not that, well, some people pay, some people... It's like taxes today. If you don't pay taxes, you are in trouble. They come after you. Because God says, خُذْ مِنْ أَمَّا. We have to support the society. We have a problem in the society. We have needy. Who's going to feed them? So, Ya Rasulullah, خُذْ. Go and take. خُذْ means take. مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً. So in this case, sadaqah not only voluntary, but also mandatory. So these categories are entitled to get the charitable offerings. Who are they? Number one, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ. Number one, please write them down, these categories. Number one, fuqara. Faqir are the poor. What is the definition of poor? Who is poor? In San Francisco, if you don't make $90,000 a year, you are poor. Do you know that? I read this in the New York Times. San Francisco, if you live in San Francisco and you make less than $90,000 a year, you are poor. So sadaqah, faqir means the one who cannot make what he needs throughout the year. Let's say you and your family, you need 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. Paying your rent, the gas, food, in a moderate, not that you go and buy a pair of shoes for $700. No. In a moderate, moderate way. You need 50,000. If you don't make 50,000, you make 49,000, then you are poor. You are entitled for sadaqah. So the poor people. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين. Who is the miskin? Destitute, meaning that he's desperate. He doesn't have food to eat, let alone rent. He doesn't have food. This is worse than faqir. Miskin, this is miskin. وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا. Third, who are عاملين عليها? Those who go on and distribute the money, get the money, disperse the money. They get their salary from there. From these offerings, they get their own salary because they need to eat. They need to live.
Sorry, I was gonna say, what was that? Amalina Aleha are the people that go and get the money?
Yes. Yeah.
Like the tax
Collectors. The collectors, they collect it and then they disperse it. They work, huh?
Agents.
Agents, they work full time. They work full time. So how do they get their money from? From this money. Some percentage, like any charity in America. They tell you, Red Cross, let's say, Red Cross, 30%, whatever, goes for the agency itself. عاملين على. So we have the same in Islam. There are very few agencies or charities that they don't take. They don't take. 100% goes to the poor, but very few. Other than that, والعاملين عليها. Number 3. Number 4, والمؤلفة قلوبهم. Write this one. المؤلفة قلوبهم. Those whose hearts to be reconciled. Those whose hearts to be reconciled. And I'll come to this to explain it shortly. Those whose hearts to be reconciled. المؤلفة قلوبهم. Okay? وفي الرقاب. Those who, the slaves that are to be ransomed. There are slaves. You can use the charity money to ransom slaves. You purchase them from the market and you free them. وفي الرقاب. Okay? And then after that, so what number was وفي الرقاب? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, yes. Number 6, والغارمين. غارمين, those who are in debt and they can't pay their debt. They got a loan and they are stuck. They can't repay the loan, so you may use the charity money, the sadaqat, to help them to pay. They come to you, they say, I have a debt. I can't pay it. I can't. I can't.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if you have lent somebody money, at that time it wasn't sadaqah. It wasn't
Yeah.
to give you thought you
Loan.
would get
It was a loan.
It was a loan.
Yeah.
But if they're not able to pay you back, can you now consider that money as sadaqah?
Yes, you can consider.
Just
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
worry about
Yeah. You can consider it as a sadaqah. Give it to them as a sadaqah. Okay? والغارمين. This is غارمين. This is number what, Dr. Omid? غارمين, number 6. And then we come وفي سبيل الله. Anything, any cause which is for the sake of God. Give me an example of that. Someone who works for the sake of God. A soldier, let's say a soldier. A soldier, the government does not pay him. He's defending his community. Policeman in the street, the government does not pay him. Okay? But he's protecting the community, fi sabilillah. Or talaba, he's studying to be a teacher. Okay? So he deserves anything that fi sabilillah. Some people who work for the sake of God to protect and provide and support their communities. Okay? وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And then, so that was number what? 7. And number 8 is the last one. وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ is a wayfarer or a traveler that went somewhere and he wants to come back home and he has no money to come back home. Either he lost his money or he finished his money and he wants to go back to his family, to his country, to his home. So those 8 categories, they deserve what, my friends? They deserve charity. You can give charity to those. Other than that, you want to give them donation, it's okay. But you don't. How about giving someone cigarettes? To buy cigarettes? But suppose if you don't give him cigarettes, he dies.
No, that's necessary.
Huh? No, really. If you don't give him cigarettes today, you will find him not dead. I don't know. Maybe Dr. Ali knows.
Or alcohol, for instance. He
Or
might go
alcohol.
through withdrawal, have a seizure, or
Now, definitely alcohol you can't buy him. Definitely. But cigarettes, some people say if really he's going to die or he's going to get sick, and then you have to pay more for his treatment, then you might start giving him, but a small dosage, not whole pack. Try to, like the drug ones, the drug addicts. I think when they take them to places, huh?
Yes, when
They-
they go to detox.
They still give them, huh?
They give
They
another
give them
form,
some medication.
Huh?
safer form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, sometimes it's not only shelter
Yeah.
or food or a drink, but sometimes he says, please, if you don't give me one, please give me one. But not to Cuban cigars because it's expensive. Yeah. So now what is the relationship of this lesson, this ayah to our? One of them, this item, which is item number what on the list? 4 or 5?
4.
4
Yes.
was cancelled and removed by the second caliph. اجتهاد. اجتهاد في مقابل النص. اجتهاد, personal opinion, against what? Against text, the Quran. So the story is very famous. It's written in this book that I showed you. By the way, Dr. Ali, I showed a book and Hamid. This book is An-Nass wal-Ijtihad, Sayyid Abdul Hussein Sharafuddin. This is the translation to English. If you want to get the translation, if you don't read the Arabic, then this is, and it's a very important. You can take a picture of it later on. It tells you when and where and how many rulings were changed during the reign of the 3 caliphs after the Prophet. And one of them is this story. And it gives you the references in the Sunni books. This is the good thing about it. The reference in Sunni books. So you show them, look, this is your book. This is what it says. First caliph changed this, the second caliph changed this, the third one. All these introductions, innovations, and personal opinions are mentioned here. An-Nass wal-Ijtihad, very valuable book, very good work. And he wrote it when he was 80 years old, just before he died. This is his last work. He has more than 60 books. Brilliant. All his books are perfect because he's a real scholar. He's a real scholar and researcher. And he's very just. He doesn't say something that does not backed by evidence. This man is a perfect man in his research. So this book was written at the end of his life. So this is the culmination of his work. So here the second caliph comes and he says, yeah, what does مؤلفة قلوبهم means? It means those people who are non-Muslims, but we try to reconcile and win their hearts and their minds. Win or at least make them what? Huh? We avoid their hurt or avoid their evil. Because if you don't give him, he's going to create a problem for you. And this is what God says, you have to give something. You have to give money. From charity. From charity you have to give. As you give to the poor, to the indigent, to the destitute, to the wayfarer, you must give to those because they pose a threat. If you don't give, then the society is not going to have a stable life. Yes, Saeed.
Are these like during the Khilafat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, like the non-Muslims?
Those were during the time of the Prophet. The Prophet gave to some of the mushrikeen. Mushrik. He wasn't Muslim, but he had to pay him in order to calm him down. So he wouldn't attack. It's like gangs here in some countries. You have to pay the gang leader so you can live in peace. You can live in peace in that neighborhood. Okay? And one of those مؤلفة قلوبهم, the most famous, there are many. Their names are written in these books. But the most famous one is Abu Sufyan and his son Muawiyah. The Prophet gave them, after Fath Mecca, the conquest of Mecca, each one gave him 100 min al-ibil. Ibil means camels. And a camel at that time equates to Tesla today. Less than Tesla, maybe Mercedes. You know. I don't know the prices today, but let's say each one would be $35,000, $40,000. He gave them 100. Wow, this is a huge fleet. Why? So he will neutralize them. Okay? But then, when the Prophet died, some of those people came to Abu Bakr and they said, the Prophet used to give us. He put us on payroll. So you give us. So كَتَبَ لَهُمْ كِتَابًا. He wrote to the treasury that you give those guys. Umar intercepted them and he saw the letter and he tears the letter and he says, you have nothing. So they went to Abu Bakr and they said to him, Umar took the book from us and he destroyed it. And he said, you have nothing. So he sent after Umar. He said, Umar, why did you do this? Umar said, because when the Prophet gave them, Islam was weak. Islam needed protection. We didn't have force. Now we have force. We have military force. So we don't need to give those people. Whereas God did not say, when you have no force, you have to give them, and when you have force, you don't give them. It's open, mutlaq. Okay, it's absolute. The sentence says you give them. So this is one of his innovations, that he forbade the giving of mu'allafati qulubuhum, because he says, Inna Allah a'azza al-Islam. Now Islam is dignified, and Islam doesn't need, even if those turn against us, we don't care. So this is one of his innovations. The second one is mentioned in Surah Al-Hashr. Surah Al-Hashr, Hashr is the gathering, meant the day of judgment. Hashr means when yuhsharun nas, when people are gathered. And this is chapter 59, verse 7. And this speaks about the spoil of wars. So let's read it from the Quran. Which page is it? Okay, 545. 545. Surah Al-Hashr. Okay, this is here. Allah says, ما أفاء الله على رسوله. ما أفاء. Afa comes from al-fay. Al-fay, my friend, is, what does it mean? What does it mean? Huh? No, read the sentence above it.
Spoils of war.
Yeah. Spoils of war. Fay. Fay. Afa is the verb. What God gives and bestows, okay, from the spoils of war. Ma afa Allahu ala rasulihi, has given in spoils. Ma afa Allahu ala rasulihi min ahli al-qura. So the spoils of war has to go to whom? At that time, now the spoils of war goes to whom? If two countries are fighting each other. I know, but the government, only the government. They don't give it to ordinary people. But at that time, they have to give it to ordinary people. على رسوله من أهل القرى. فلله, part of it goes for God. And of course, when God does not receive it, who receives it? The Prophet. وللرسول, part of it for the Prophet himself. ولذي القربى, the family of the Prophet. And then the rest, اليتامى, the orphans in the society. مساكين, the destitutes, indigents. وابن السبيل, the wayfarer who doesn't have money. لكي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. What does it mean, دولة? Not دولة, huh? دولة. فرق. There is a difference between دولة. See, this is دولة. دولة. If you say دولة, دولة means government, country, دولة. But this is دولة. دولة. So it does not circulate only among the rich of you. لكي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء. See, دولة بين الأغنياء. So it does not, this wealth should not only circulate among only the rich, and the rest of the people are deprived. So we have to give it to all people. All people have to enjoy from this fate, from this spoil. All people have to enjoy from that. And then God says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Whatever the Prophet presents to you and tells you to do, then do. وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُ. And what he prevents you or forbids you from doing, then don't do. This is 59:7. 59:7. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. And fear God. إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. God is severe in his punishment. So if you don't disperse these spoils of war among the people, then there is punishment. There is a penalty. Uthman ibn Affan came during his time, and he decided that this portion, fay, the spoils, goes only to Bani Umayyah. Uthman ibn Affan is from Bani Umayyah, you know. His family is Bani Umayyah. So he gave all his wealth, all the wealth of the treasury was dispersed among only Bani Umayyah. And the rest of the nation, as they are doing in some countries now, the rest of the nations were deprived. Great leaders, great Sahabis of the Prophet, such as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, great Sahabi, Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, Ammar ibn Yasir, those are great names. They were deprived. Abu Dhar dies of starvation. You know his story? During the time of Uthman, the third caliph. This is the companion of the Prophet. He didn't have food to eat. He died right before the eyes of his daughter. They were 4 people in the desert. Abu Dhar, his first name is Jundub. Jundub ibn Junada. Jundub. Okay? His wife died first. They didn't have food. He buried his wife. After his wife, his son died. And then he died. And his daughter was sitting next to his body. She didn't know what to do. Alone in the desert. A caravan came. She ran to them. She said, Hada sahibu Rasulillah. This is the companion of the Prophet. Imagine, during the reign of the third caliph. He died of starvation. This is not a fairy tale. This is a fact. Why? Because Uthman turned the treasury into dulatan bayna al-aghniya. And some of his family members, like his governor on Kufa, he went public and he said, the wealth of the state belongs to us. And this sentence was repeated by Muawiyah many times. The wealth belonged to me. They remind me of some leaders in the Gulf states. They say the whole oil, the gas, what we have is ours. Now, if we like, we can give some citizens as a gift. Okay? We do them a favor. So if they give their citizens, they are doing them a favor. Otherwise, it is their worth. The story is repeated today, exactly. In sharp contrast to what God says, لِكَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً. Don't keep this wealth among only the elite, the rich. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And deprive others. Don't do that. لِكَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً. So this is another example of ijtihad, using their personal opinion and personal taste against what? Against the text. And I will conclude with the third one, but the examples are many. And if you really like to research and go further, don't forget this book. Don't forget this book. If you can order it, okay, I can leave it with you for some time. Yeah? And then, yeah, take a picture of this and send it to the group. Send it to the group, please. And this is the Arabic, this is the English. Yeah. Good pictures?
Yeah.
Huh? Hatman? Okay. Okay. Show them to your daughter Fariba. Yeah. So, my friends, the third one is that one day, you know, at that time, the caliph was also at the same time the judge. The state was not expanded a lot. So one of the duties of the caliph, of the Khalifa, was a judge at the same time, you know, because he was confined in one city in Medina. Though Islam was spreading, but the caliph was in Medina, so he doesn't get cases from outside Medina. So sometimes he works as a judge. A woman was brought to Umar ibn al-Khattab, and this is a very famous story mentioned in many books, numerous books and sources, very popular story. She was pregnant, and her husband came and he said, "This is not my child." Why? Because she delivered the baby for 6 months. Do you know the story? So what's the end of the story? What happened?
Imam Ali's brilliance.
What happened?
Math, his simple math using the
Using the Quran. So immediately when the husband came with this mother and the baby who's, I don't know, a few hours old, 1 day old, Umar sentenced her to death, that she had a relationship, an affair, while she's married, and therefore she got pregnant, therefore she has to be sentenced to death. It happened that Imam Ali was sitting there. Sometimes Imam Ali was, in the session. He said, we have to save her life. Umar said, why? He said, the Quran, because of the Quran. In hajajtuka bil Quran. If I bring you evidence from the Quran, would you accept? He said, of course. Show me, where is it in the Quran? So these are the verses. Verse number 46:15. 46:15. 46. When you go home, if you have time, check it out. 46:15. And then 2:33. 2:33. Put these together. Imam Ali puts these two verses together and he saves her life. So what does 46:15 say? It says, وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا. The gestation and the weaning of a baby is totaled at 30 months. The gestation, the pregnancy, the period of the pregnancy, and the period where he stops the nursing totals 30 months. 30 months. 30 شهر. 30 months. Okay? The pregnancy plus weaning. Both. In this verse, Surah Al-Baqarah, what does God say in Surah Al-Baqarah? He says, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ mothers, يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ they nurse their children حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرِّضَاعَةِ Mothers have to nurse their kids for a period that totals 24 months, not more than that. So suckling is 24 months. Okay? وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ حَوْلَيْن, the hawl is 1 year. حَوْلَيْن, 2 years. 2 years, 24 months. So subtract 24 from 30. How many months you have here? 6 months. So Amir al-Mu'mineen said to him, we understand from the Quran that the least period, the minimum period of pregnancy is what? 6 months. With 6 months, the baby can survive. Before 6 months, the baby will die. Even today, kids that they put them in incubators, they have to be how many weeks? Which is 6 months. 25 weeks? You know, you are a doctor, you know, okay? So, but if they are younger than that, they can't survive. If they are younger than that, they can. So the minimum pregnancy is 6 months. So a baby can survive for 6 months. So if his wife, she delivered the baby at 6 months, then that baby could be legitimate. So how can you immediately sentence her to death? You can't. Here Umar said, wow, لا أبقاني الله لمعضلة ليس لها أبو الحسن. May God does not keep me safe when I face mu'adhala, a problem such as this, where Abu al-Hasan is not next to me. Abu al-Hasan Imam Ali. He saved me. Otherwise, I would have killed her. And you know, at that time, there is no appeal, and it goes to the whatever court, and then you have a lawyer. Immediately, when someone is sentenced, 30 minutes, 15 minutes after that, his head is gone. His hands are chopped off. So he saved her life. Yes?
Wouldn't he have needed for witnesses anyways, besides the calculations to prove that she had an affair with somebody else?
Because he considered the baby as a big witness. Omar, to himself, of course he needs, even in this case, even if someone is pregnant, you need to have witnesses. Because she can get pregnant by her husband, even though the husband thinks, no, nothing happened. But there is a possibility. There are ways, people know that. So he needed witnesses. But because she came with a baby and the man said, we have just got married, it's only 6 months. How come she delivered the baby for 6 months? So the husband thought that his wife had an affair before marriage. And the son, and at that time there is no DNA to match and so this is again, if someone studies the Quran and he puts the verses together, he can find the answer. And from that date, from that incident, jurists and fuqaha and ulama considered these verses. So now they took it as a fact that the minimum time of pregnancy is 6 months. Okay? So, the other thing, my friends, let's conclude with this. At the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, we are speaking about Imam Ali's period. At that time, what are we speaking about Imam Ali's period? What? What about it? Legislation. So at that time, the Quran was further explained, and then the terminologies of the Quran started. Terminology. Such as what? Such as am, and wa khas. I'll translate, don't worry. مطلق ومقيد ناسخ ومنسوخ. Okay? فريضة النافلة ونافلة and things like that. At that time, they and محكم and متشابه. محكم ومتشابه. So what is عام and خاص?
Those are the types of zikrs, right?
No. Verses. The verses of the Quran were categorized, put into category during the time of Imam Ali. And they were given names. So these terminologies, they developed during the time of Imam Ali. What is am? Verse, that is am. Am, general. But what? So please write the translation. When I say general, put it up. So am is general. General, give me an example of a verse that is general in the Quran. It applies to all people, with no exception. اعبدوا ربكم. أحسنت. يا أيها الناس سورة البقرة. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم. O mankind, worship your Lord, serve your Lord who created you. This is am. This is am, general. It doesn't specify or Arabs, or Iranians, or rich, or educated, or wealthy. It says ayyuhan nas, all people. Am, this is am. There are verses that is khas, specific. Write specific, please. And give me an example of specific verse.
Maybe apply to some
Yes.
people that are married.
Either to one, or to one family, or to a group, or to one city, or to one condition. Khas, they call it khas. Many verses we have khas. We have that applies to one person, applies to Prophet Muhammad. God says, وَإِنِ امْرَأَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ وَهَبَتْ لَفْسَهَا لِلنَّبِيِّ إِنْ أَرَادَ النَّبِيُّ أَنْ يَسْتَخْلِصَهَا خَالِصَةً مِنْ بَيْنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. What happened? One day the Prophet is in the, it's funny. It's a beautiful story. So a lady came to him, she said, Ya Rasulullah, please marry me. So the Prophet didn't know what to say. It's in public. So he was silent for a few seconds. Jibreel came. He said, God says, marry her. وَإِنِ امْرَأَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ وَهَبَتْ نَفْسَهَا. She's giving herself in gift. خَالِصَةً لَكَ مِن دُونِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. خَالِصَةً. Khas. This is only for you, huh? We give you permission. This is above 4, of course. Above 4. So only the Prophet had permission to do this. This is khas. So this verse is specific. Applies only to the Prophet. Okay? Applies to the Prophet. And we have many others that applies to a community, applies to specific time. Okay. What is nasikh and mansukh? Before. Mutlaq and muqayyad. Mutlaq is open, is absolute, open. Muqayyad is conditioned. We have in Islam a tradition that encourages freeing slaves. So sometimes a person does something foolish, something illegal. God says to him, as a repentance, if you want to repent, you have to buy a slave, or if you have a slave at home, free the slave. فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ. Raqabah means neck. But here, the general meaning of it is a person, human being. Be it male or female. Raqabah. Okay? Tahrir means what? Freeing. We have 2 verses in the Quran. One of them says tahriru raqabatin mu'mina, and another one tahriru raqaba, only raqaba. Only raqaba. I'll tell you where, so you're going to check them out, and once you have time. This one, only slave. This is in 58, Surah Al-Mujadala, 58:3, Al-Mujadala. Tahrir raqaba. Your penalty is just to free a slave. It didn't say mu'mina. That slave could be mushrik, could be non-believer, but still you have to free him. But then, in another case, in mu'mina here, this is in Surah An-Nisa, 492. 492. Let's read 492. Why God says mu'mina here? It has to be what? Muslim. Not enough to be human being, but also that person has to be Muslim. And where is it? What sort of penalty is this? Where does it apply? وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ أَنْ يَقْتُلَ مُؤْمِنًا إِلَّا خَطَأً. A mu'min should not murder another mu'min. Maybe by mistake. What they call it by mistake? Involuntary manslaughter? Huh? By mistake. Accident. Let's say accident. إِلَّا خَطَأً. وَمَنْ قَتَلَ مُؤْمِنًا خَطَأً. If someone kills someone by accident, not intentionally, by accident, car accident, whatever, today at Ontario Airport, the UPS tractor fell down and it crashed 2 people and they died underneath it today. So this is accident, it happens. So if a mu'min, a Muslim, kills another person by accident, فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنَةٍ. Though it is a mistake, but he has to pay ransom. He has to pay two things. تَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنَةٍ. He frees a mu'min slave. The second thing, he pays to his family. وَدِيَةٌ مُسَلَّمَةٌ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ. وَدِيَةٌ مُسَلَّمَةٌ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ. Then you have to pay the diya. How much is the diya at that time? How much was it for an accident? For an accident killing? 1,000 dinar. Each dinar is one gold coin. One gold coin. 1,000 dinar. One gold coin. إِلَّا أَن يَصَّدَّقُوا. Either, unless they say, we don't need the diya. Okay? They forfeit the diya. Some of them will say, he's poor, we don't need. But he has to pay diya. So this is, in this case, raqaba, but in this case, mu'mina. This is what? Mutlaq and muqayyad. Mutlaq, this is mutlaq. Any human being. Mutlaq. Mutlaq means what? Absolute. Or open. But this one is conditioned. It has to be, let me read for you what type of, 58 is mujadala. Which page is it? It's 542. 542. Okay. It says 542 what? 3. It says وَالَّذِينَ only raqaba. What incident? He has to free only a slave. It doesn't have to be a mu'min. وَالَّذِينَ men, husbands among you, يُظَاهِرُونَ مِن نِسَائِهِمْ ثُمَّ يَعُودُونَ لِمَا قَالُوا فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مِّن قَبْلِ أَنْ يَتَمَاسَّ. يُظَاهِرُون. What does يُظَاهِرُون mean, my friends? يُظَاهِرُون. See? يُظَاهِرُون. This is an act. This is illegal.
Say you're not my wife.
Huh?
Say you're not my wife.
He doesn't say you are not my wife. It's the source is dhihar. Dhihar. This act, dhihar.
Oh, this is the one where you say you're unto me like my mother?
To me, you are like my mother. An indication that I'm not interested in you and we're not going to have intimacy anymore. They used to say this. He wouldn't divorce. Nowadays they divorce, But at that time, he says, you stay in my house, but you are like my mother to me. Islam came, and that was an Arab tradition in the Jahiliyyah before Islam. Islam came and he said, this is haram, illegal to say this. If you don't want her, release her. Say you are divorced. Khalas, let her go and remarry. You don't keep her in home and you tell her you are my mother for the rest of her life. This is injustice. So if you do so from now on, you have to tahriru raqaba, but not mu'mina. You have to free a slave before you go back to her. Because some of them, after saying this, after 2 months, 3 months, he wants to go back to her again. God says, as a punishment and penalty, you have to free a slave. Okay. Nasikh and mansukh, there are plenty of examples. And nafila wa farida, muhkam, mutashabih. What else we have?
Hey, what was nasikh? I can't remember. What was
Nasikh, abrogating, and this is abrogated. Mansukh. What is the example of it? Again, the example of it is that the mansukh. Let me give you the mansukh. If, and this is what verse? Also Surah An-Nisa. Let me read it for you. So, when you go home, 4:15. When you go home, you can check it out, please, because part of understanding the lesson, we read the verses ourselves. Okay. وَاللَّاتِي يَأْتِينَ الْفَاحِشَةَ مِن نِسَائِكُمْ. God forbids if a married wife has an affair. فَاسْتَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ أَرْبَعَةً مِنْكُمْ. You have to bring, before you accuse her, this is what Ali asked earlier. They have to have 4 witnesses. فَاسْتَشْهِدُوا, bring 4, ask 4 witnesses to come forward. فَاسْتَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ أَرْبَعَةً مِنْكُمْ, 4 witnesses. فَإِنْ شَهِدُوا, if those witnesses, they testify that yes, this happened, please write it down. This is 415. 415, okay? So this is mansukh. This is an example of mansukh. It has been abrogated and changed. It existed for some time and then later on it was removed. Mansukh, it was abrogated. فَإِنْ شَهِدُوا, if they testify that yes, this is right, this happened, فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ فِي الْبُيُوتِ, imprison them in your homes, حَتَّى يَتَوَفَّاهُنَّ الْمَوْتِ, until they die as a punishment. But this ruling, أو يجعل اللهن لهن أو يجعل الله لهن سبيلا, or may God find a solution for them. But for the time being, you have to imprison them. So this is mansukh. It has been abrogated. How this ruling was changed? No longer exists. Who can help me? What is the nasikh? What is the abrogator?
Another ayah?
Not another ayah. It was abrogated by a hadith of the Prophet. That if she's married, if a man or a woman are married and they have affair, illegal affair, then they have to be what? Huh? You tell me, you're an attorney. Huh? Not divorce. I wish divorce. Ugh. No. الزانية والزاني, Surah An-Nur, if they are single. الزاني والزانية فاجلدوا كل واحد منهما 100 جلدة. Lashes 100 in case if they are single. But if they are married and they commit fornication, God forbids, then according to the hadith of the Prophet. This is hadith which is acceptable. They have to be killed. If that is approved. But approving it is not easy. It's not easy. God made it very difficult to approve it. Very difficult. So that hadith is nasikh. And this ayah is mansukh. Doesn't work anymore. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين